Welcome to the DeChambros Podcast, where two brothers talk about their two favorite things, gambling and golf. This is Season 1, Episode 7, and we got a lot to talk about today, Tanner, so let's get right into it.
Yeah, we had a big week last week.
We did. Well, kinda. But let's talk about last week. Let's get into the first segment of the day, which is, of course, last week on the PGA Tour. Last week we had, of course, none other but the Waste Management Phoenix Open.
One of my favorite courses. And so before we get started here, I just want to ask you, do you think it was too much this year? Or do you think that they effectively toned down the hecticness that we talked about last week?
You know what I'll tell you is, it's a great question because it's something I wanted to bring up. Mm-hmm. Watching it on TV and definitely seeing, online on the socials and things like that, it definitely seemed a little bit more toned down, which was nice. I saw a couple of videos, like you get your normal, people wobbling around videos, which are fine. I saw one video of a big fat guy going down, which I don't like again, but my feed wasn't just absolutely hammered with just degeneracy. Yeah. Which was good. And so, you know what? And again, like I said last week, I definitely see and know that there is a place and a need for this tournament in the PGA Tour. Last year was definitely too much. This year, I was impressed with it. It was a hell of a good tournament to watch.
I honestly think, like, you just say no throwing beer unless it's a hole-in-one, and all of a sudden, 90% of the issues that you were concerned about are gone.
100%.
Right? You still keep that rowdy atmosphere. You still see a lot of fan engagement,
100%.
right?
100%. And
you're not
we
seeing sloppy beer throwing when someone misses the green on 16, like you saw a few years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we were lucky enough that we did see a hole-in-one on 16. Yes, we did see the beer go. And you know what? Again, in that kind of instance, it's kind of like when you get a hat trick in hockey, seeing the hats fly. It's cool. But again, celebrating the hole-in-one, perfect. Celebrating a birdie, get the fuck out.
I get that, but you know what? For me, honestly, if I was to hit a hole-in-one on any course, on any, number, I'm screaming. Like, people 13 holes the other way are going to hear it, and they're going to know I got a hole-in-one, and they're going to expect their drink at the end of the round.
For sure.
And so for me, like, seeing that, it's like, man, that's exactly how I'd react. You know what I mean? It brings it kind of a little bit back. So, I mean, I'm kind of really happy that there wasn't a lot of sloppiness and hecticness, that we talked about last week. And I think it was a great showing. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, I mean, it was a great tournament as well. Thomas Detry wins by 7.
Okay, first off, Cantley Jr. and that white boss polo on day 4, I swear to God. When I messaged you that, it's because I thought I was watching Cantley. Like, wait, he's golfing fast. That's not Cantley.
It can't be.
Right? And you look, he's got like the bone structure, like a little brother or something to Cantley.
Yeah. Cantley Jr.
Yeah, so, I mean, first career win, right, for Detry? And did it in style.
Dude, 66, 64, and a pair of 65s on the weekend to take it home. And I mean, this was, when you look back at it and you see Thomas Detry wins by 7, anytime someone wins by 7, you think, oh shit, it was a runaway tournament. All Sunday long, like I was watching it, there's never really a moment where I thought this is over until 16.
I was going to say 16 when he threw that dart.
I thought it was going in.
What a shot.
I thought it was going in. And then Berger airmails the green, and you know what I mean? Like, it was done after 16. Yeah. But, leading up there, like, I mean, I even messaged you after Scotty's front 9, which, I mean, let's get into that for a second.
We'll talk about it.
31 on the front, 41 on the back. That kid played like me out there, like, unbelievable. But Scotty was showing some teeth, like he was showing some life, and I told you, if it gets to Sunday and he's 5 back, I might sprinkle on him.
I told you not to.
Luckily, I didn't,
told
right?
You not to.
And the only thing that was holding me back was that, I mean, he was going into 10. Like, to go 6 under, and then we're hoping that Detry stays at -1. And like you said, what did you tell me? I think -21 wins this thing.
Yeah.
He was never going to get there.
Never going to get close.
He was never going to get there. So, but it did give that level of excitement that we always get whenever you see Scotty's in the hunt and he has a run of birdies, and it's like, holy shit, is he going to do this again?
Well, for me, I think it was 9, or it might have been 8. I'd have to relook at it, but he had like a 4-foot putt for bird to continue going. I'm like, okay, he hits this, and I might sprinkle some fucking Scotty Scheffler on there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he rimmed it out.
Typical
and it was like
Scotty fashion,
I was like,
man.
as soon as that happened, 5 minutes later, you messaged me. I'm like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. I just watched a yippee putt. Like today's not the day.
Yeah, and I was definitely glad that I didn't. I mean, I was texting you that on my way to a Super Bowl party, and then I got to the party. Obviously, I left the football downstairs. I went upstairs and watched the rest of the round, and I went, yeah, you're goddamn right. I'm happy I didn't bet that. But I mean, on top of that, what a stacked leaderboard. Jordan Spieth and JT up at the top of the leaderboard. What a beautiful sight to see.
I was gonna say, like I think you mentioned it a few weeks ago. It's just great for golf to see those names up there.
100%.
I mean, Spieth kind of threw a dagger into some of our picks that we had, but I mean, honestly, watching both them play lights out. JT with a walk-off eagle on 18, dunks it.
Brilliant.
Oh my God.
Just great. And Jordan Spieth pars out of the trees. Like, it was a flashback to a time that I remember golf being great.
Yeah,
and it was great.
A par out behind trees. Detry had one himself. He was behind one, when I saw that shot land on the ground, I was like, okay, there's no way he's losing this. Like,
that's it.
He's in the zone right now.
That's it. No one
I think
can
that was
touch
even
him.
like 13 or 14.
Yeah.
Where he did that because I was really hopeful that a few of our players in our fantasy team were going to make a push there. Unfortunately, he just was really strong, really consistent.
You couldn't.
There's no chink in that armor.
Nobody could touch him. Nobody could touch him. But I mean, again, going back, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, great to see him up top there. Great in a Ryder Cup year too, especially when we're looking at a previous Ryder Cup team where there was a whole lot of question marks when their names came up, right? I mean, I truly believe that they have a spot on the team and they belong there, and their chemistry is unmatched. But when we look at it 2 years ago, there was a lot of questions on their game, and I really questioned that decision.
Yeah, brand value, big names, right? And that was the first year that LIV took over, and they chose them over players that went to LIV that had better records the year before and better records that current year leading up to it. So
very true.
I think that was a lot of it too, why we were a little jaded on it.
I guess I can end that on by saying it's my hope to just continue to see Jordan and Justin play well, and there's just absolutely no question about it. We get to see them repping for the red and the blue, baby.
Yeah. Well, I got a few more things from last week.
Cool, man. Let's get at it.
One of my favorites, Straka, is having the year, a career year. Year of his life. Dominant play, finished at 15th with a -5 score on Sunday to push him up to 15th overall.
Top 20 finish is always a good finish.
I mean, Straka, I'm so upset that I didn't go for the double name game on our team because
I'm not happy about it either, but I can't give none of us are fully to blame.
We're learning here.
You know what? It's one of those things. We're gonna have new teams coming up when the majors come up, and that's gonna be a fun time to be able to learn from our mistakes and go from there. Honorary mention I want to say as well. Good old Canadian boy, Adam Hadwin.
I was going to say, I have him on my list here to talk about. Top Canadian,
best known for getting football tackled when Nick Taylor won the Canadian Open.
Yeah.
But strong showing, T9 out of him. Great showing out of
another
a good Canadian boy.
-5 on Sunday. Like a really strong Sunday out of him, right? And unfortunately, we can't say that about a lot of the players that we're going to talk about. But, I mean, strong Sunday for both Straka and Adam Hadwin. Have to give them their props.
For sure.
Love it.
For sure. So maybe let's get into that, man.
Yep.
Let's get into our next segment. This one, of course, we call Fantasy Feats and Failures. And this is where we talk about how our good old DeChambros team did this week. So, Tanner, how do we do?
Wyndham! For the week, we were 139. And, I mean, honestly, we're going to get into some of our placements here. I looked at this leaderboard beginning of Sunday, and I'm like, God, we have a really good chance here. But end up finishing 139 on the week out of 300 teams. So, about dead even in the middle again.
Dead even. We're getting stuck in this middle of the pack. And I mean, I know we keep saying it's a long season. There's a lot that we can go. A lot of wins will bring us up there.
One elevated event, dude. One elevated event, and we're back in this, honestly.
That's exactly it. But I mean, having Rasmus drop down out of the top 10, we almost had, so T12,
of
he
course,
started, Rasmus.
He was T2 at the start of Sunday. T2.
You want to talk about who was first at the top?
We'll get there. That's why I screamed Wyndham.
Yeah.
We were T2 with Rasmus beginning of Sunday, and he pulls out an even round and gets pushed down to T12.
Yeah.
Rough. I mean, he's young. Right, so it's nice to see that for 3 days he was playing really consistent golf, and his bad round was an even round.
Well, 100%.
It wasn't a +4.
100%.
It wasn't a +2. It was an even round.
That's a couple of good weeks in a row out of our boy Raz. So I love the pick. Of course, topping it for our team with a T9, none other than Top Gun Mavi McNeely.
And you want to know what's worse about that, or what's crazy about that? He bogeyed 18. He bogeyed 18, right? He was inside. He was T6.
Yep.
Bogeys 18, gets pushed to T9. I mean, can't fault the guy. He had a great week.
He did. 70. He started off a little rough with a 70, 68, 63, and then 69, of course. To finish off the weekend. But
I mean, that's really nice out of them. But let's get to Wyndham.
Wyndham showing some life.
Let me get into the 4-day scores here, right?
Yep.
-7 on day one, leading
64.
the pack. Leading the pack. Message just like, did he hear us? Does he watch? He's one of our 20 followers, one of our listeners.
Yeah.
I love you, Wyndham. Keep listening, big dog. We're rooting for you. I don't think he listened on day 2.
He didn't. He posted a 73.
Yeah,
plus one.
+2.
Oh, plus 2 set par 71 course. That's right.
Yeah,
that's
right. 71 course. And then day 3 back to -2. Day 4 a -4. So, he pushed it back up there. And he got us into a T16 finish.
He did. I mean,
for a rough start to the season, this week is a really good week, a good sign for us, and a good sign for Wyndham.
For sure. Like, finally showing some life out of Wyndham, which is great. Because, again, one of those top players that we have, one of our top picks, hasn't really shown up for us at all.
Xander. We're still on Xander watch.
We want to get into Xander too. Like, you know what I mean? He's not even playing this week either. So there's a whole lot of question marks going up. The further that we go without seeing Xander, the more questions that we have. My hope, obviously, is that if it's truly an illness or something like they said.
Rib injury, they said.
Rib, that's right,
rib
right?
Injury,
so
yeah.
Let's hope that that's not taking him out of the season. Let's hope that he's not using a rib injury to mask some negotiations.
Listen, I am just hopeful that if he is out for the year, he announces it soon so that we can get bumped down and grab the next person on that list.
You know who the next person on the list was? Luddy.
There we go.
Which would be a great pick for us. Was one of my guys that I wanted to have on the squad.
I mean, it's really stressful. Number one, we need more golfers golfing during the tournaments. We can't just keep running in with 6 golfers. This is a 13-man, 14-man freaking team, and we can't get more than 12. I'm getting aggressively upset.
I know. I get it. And you know what? It's hard not to get upset when we make our team and we pick these guys, we invest in them, obviously not just financially, but we invest in them emotionally because that's just who we are as people. These are our guys, and our guys are letting us down. I wish we could talk to them. They don't know that they're doing it, but they are, right?
Wyndham's watching, so.
Wyndham, baby. Great showing. I love it. I mean, my hope is that there was just a little bit of a hangover from a little Thursday celebration and maybe some, a little bit of adrenaline spiking, but a 9-shot swing from fucking Thursday to Friday is a wild swing.
I mean, in my head, it just means he's just not there consistently in the brain game.
Yeah,
100%. He's got the physicality. He's
100%.
got everything. It's a mental struggle.
100%.
You go in, you're not shooting well this year. You go on Thursday, you shoot a -7, you lead the pack, and does that play into your head on the first tee shot on Friday morning or Friday afternoon?
I'm sure it did. it did. But the positive part of this is looking into his weekend. He pulled it together on the weekend. He shot some good scores. So obviously whatever kind of mental hiccup that he had on Friday, it seems like he got over. Let's hope that he's gotten over that for good and we can just push on to the future of Wyndham being the star for our show because without Xander, we need a stud. We need Wyndham.
We need a stud. We need some wins. Just quickly, this last week, 139th place, which puts us at 143 overall.
Still,
we're still in the second month of the season. Lots of golf to go. Much better than being 200 and something. or being 300th, right?
And you know what? Looking into next week, I have a whole lot of positive to say. So if you don't mind, let's get into it.
Right into it, my guy.
Our next segment here, of course, is This Week on Tour. And this week is another great tournament. We have the Genesis Open, which is, of course, the elevated event that is hosted by none other than the God himself, Tiger Woods. Now, before we start, I did want to mention, of course, we saw the news out there. Our condolences to the Woods family on losing his mother. It's horrible for any family to have to go through.
100%. I mean, I don't really want to touch too much on it in the sense that I might cry in front of 100,000 people, but you
just
know,
20.
Yeah.
But moving on to it, big news coming out of the Genesis. Obviously, this news came a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Riviera, with the fires that happened in Los Angeles, unfortunately unable to host the event. So we've moved to Torrey Pines, and that's really, really exciting for us. I think it's really, really exciting for our team.
Yeah, I mean, we can get down to it in a second here, but the caveat here is it's only the South Course this time.
Oh, no kidding.
They're only playing South Course. They're not going to be alternating.
They're not switching through, so okay. I mean, the South Course plays a little bit harder.
Does play a little bit harder, but I've got some stats here when we get into some things here. But the other thing I wanted to mention, have you seen the rough?
I haven't, no. Have they not cut it since the Farmers or what?
It looks like it. So here's the thing. It's not crazy messy like it was in the U.S. Open where it was like outgrowing.
Yeah.
They've trimmed the top so it looks real flat. So when you're looking at it, you're like, oh, that's not bad. And then buddy drops the ball and it disappears.
Yeah.
And like I'm thinking, like I'd be hitting like 20-yard shots out of that rough, trying to hack that ball.
Good luck finding it.
Oh my God, dude! Like looks
God.
insane. It actually looks insane. I'm really excited about it. It means that we're gonna have a tough course. We're gonna have a low winner, or I guess a high winner, right? Would be
and I mean that was what happened with the Farmers as well. What was it, -8? That one, Harris English, just
with a +1 on the day too, didn't he?
Just a few weeks back. So I mean, Torrey showed some teeth a few weeks back. It's looking like it's going to show a little bit more teeth in terms of this week. And let's kind of get into it. You already mentioned elevated event, so huge for the team, especially because 10 out of our 12 players are in the field this week.
I was going to say.
So not only do we have an elevated event, we have a lot of players out there, and we have two players in particular that played very, very well in the Farmers, right?
Yep.
So let's start with that. I mean, Captain Keegan is playing for us this week.
Yep.
T15 a few weeks back at the Farmers. And of course, good Canadian boy Taylor Pendrith, who's having a hell of a season so far, T7 in the Farmers. So,
can I give you a little bit more on Keeks here for a second?
Give it to me, absolutely.
Grease your gears here. Keegan Bradley, out of 8 years, has shot inside the top 25 out of those 8 years at Torrey Pines.
Torrey Pines, horse for a course, baby. I love hearing that.
And he was second place runner-up in 2023 at Torrey Pines South Course.
Brilliant.
So, I mean, that on a Ryder Cup year where he actually came out recently and said he's not going to auto-pick himself as a player. He's going to earn his spot,
100%.
Which means, in my head, based on, looking at the golf rankings, he needs a win or he needs a top 5 or 3 top 5s to get into that.
To get into it.
I deserve to be a player.
For sure, because he's still outside of it right now, right? And I mean, a lot of the different guys that I listen to, they're all talking about the discussion on, with how he's been performing this week, right? He's in my mind, if he wasn't the captain, he's a no-brainer captain's pick, right? Now, he already has mentioned if it comes down to picking himself, he's not going to pick himself. If he earns his way onto the team, it's a whole nother conversation. 100%. Like, does he still play? Does he play as a playing captain? Does he take a step back and say, listen, I've been given the honor to be the captain on here. Let me, keep my focus on one task and just kind of, lead us the way to the victory. It's an interesting conversation that, honestly, for our sakes and for his sakes, I really hope that we have to have. Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, my biggest question is Bryson going to get a spot on this list? I don't know, but I feel like 2 years ago, the answer is no, even though he should be, and it was no then. And now I'm wondering, has that burnout gone? Are they still upset at the LIV thing?
I don't think so. And I think
US
I think to me the answer is yes. If I'm the captain, the answer is hands down yes. Bryson since leaving to LIV arguably has been playing his best golf in his entire career. And I think that going to LIV really opened him up, not just as a player, but as a person,
100%.
which has translated over to his game. I mean, it's opened up his contract to be able to do all the great things he's doing on YouTube Golf. He's being able to show himself as a human, where I truly believe he was a little misunderstood when he was on the tour. I mean,
100%.
He came out, he had the Payne Stewart hat, he had the one-length irons, he had the attitude, and I think that people didn't really give him the chance. He's a real quirky dude, but he knows his shit.
Against him, right?
Yeah, it's just...
And the way he was saying it back then was more of a, oh, you didn't know? No, I didn't know that the spin rate in, rain affects the ball at a 13th degree fucking, I didn't know any of that shit,
100%. And at the end of the day, he just sees the game of golf so different. And to me, so much more advanced. And finally being able to be himself, it's translating. Because I think that because nobody understood him, you would get irritated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I 100% think, if I'm Captain Keegan, that's hands down not even a question. That's
the biggest surprise to me is if it's yes or no. That's my biggest question.
And I mean, if you
more
saw
than Keeks.
If you saw as well with the news in terms of the majors, right?
Yep.
Opening up their doors to the LIV players as well. And again, you got to earn your spot on, right? This isn't a gimme just because, hey, you are a name and we're going to give it to you. There's a lot of big names that, we can get to later in the LIV conversation. A lot of big names that aren't playing well on LIV, and they're not playing well when they came to the tour. And so it's not one of those things that we're just giving to Bryson. He's obviously earned it. He's exempt, right?
Yeah.
For one thing. But I think that the conversations are definitely moving forward with the PGA Tour in LIV, with the majors in LIV, and I don't even think it's a question on should Bryson be a part of the team because he plays for LIV? Abso-fucking-lutely he should be.
Yep.
Why? Because in my mind, he's a top 5, if not top 3 player in the fucking world right now.
Yep.
And what do we do in Ryder Cup years? We want to win.
Yep.
Right? And who do you want to win with? The best fucking of the best at your back. There's no question about it.
No injuries. You put up a top 5, Scheffler, Schauffele, Bryson, JT, Spieth. I feel like Spieth might be the one on that edge there that's could go a different player or not, but that's an insane top 5 to have.
For sure.
The Ryder Cup this year is going to be really exciting.
For sure. We're a little bit off topic there, but that's okay. Back to the Genesis. I promised you guys we had 10 players in there. We've talked about Captain Keegan already. Our boy Wyndham Clark.
Yep.
Back in the field. Let's hope we get that momentum going. Let's hope we keep that. We don't have another kind of hiccup like we had on Friday. We get a good showing out of him. Eric Cole missed the cut last week. Has been playing pretty decent otherwise.
He's had a good round. I don't have it written down. He hasn't had a really good round at Torrey Pines before. And I don't know.
Oh, that I don't have. I thought you were going to say last
10?
week. And I was like, not last week because he went 7-4-7-3.
What did he do at the Farmers?
Oh, fuck. I got to look that up.
Yeah, well, while you're doing that, I'll take a look at this here. It is exciting, that, we've got 10 golfers finally in this. If we can have at least 8 of them make the cut, then we're going to be looking really, really good. This is probably the most excited I've been for one of our tournaments, just based on the fact that we've got 10 golfers in there.
For sure.
I know we don't have Xander. That would make it 11. It would be, really, really nice there. But
especially with the big name like Xander and with our number 1 pick playing for us.
Yeah, and the way that he's played here previously, because Xander's actually played really well at this course before.
If this thing will load, I'll give you Eric Cole. Here we go. Eric Cole, Farmers, T68.
T68, okay.
Don't get too excited.
Not getting as excited as I was earlier. I saw a high thing when I was looking at him earlier. I should have written it down. It's all right.
That's okay. Moving on, we have 2 Canadian boys in the field. We have, of course, Taylor Pendrith. We talked about with his G7 at the Farmers. Corey Connors. Corey Conners, a little bit of a disappointing finish last week, but again, he's still having a good year of golf. A guy Rasmus, dude, back in the field again, having a hell of a time on the PGA Tour. What a showing for his first year, his first season on tour.
You know what? Him and his brother are going to be a little powerhouse coming up here in the next few years. I'm telling you, I really like this kid. Again, he had a rough Sunday, but really, really good showing out of him.
Really. Davis Thompson, of course, back in there. Top Gun Maverick McNeely playing for us this week.
One of my favorites.
My man, my twin, Shane motherfucking Lowry, back in there again. Last time that he teed it up, of course, he came in second place. So let's see some good golf out of Shane again. The return
of Willie Zalatoris.
The return of Willie Z this week. What do you think about Willie coming back?
I'm not going to lie. I gave him a little bit of thought when I was picking my top 10s, 20s, and 5s there.
Interesting.
I went against him. Just based on his prior form this year.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like he's turned that corner yet. I'm excited for him. I think this is a really good week to show out. And I think it'd be a good week to show out mainly because of the amount of stars that are
for sure.
Be at
for
this
sure.
tournament.
And
I think it'd be a really good placing for him if he can get in that top 10.
Yeah, and I mean, with the elevated event, obviously we have the best of the best out there. And it wasn't too long ago that Willie Z broke out on the scene by, coming in second how many times when playing the best of the best in the majors. So really looking forward to see Willie out there. Not going to get my hopes up because of how he's played this year and because of, again, the injuries. That's the only thing that worries about me. I hope that, if anything, if he doesn't contend this week, that we just see a good, solid, consistent, healthy showing out of Willie Z this week.
I was reading, Willie Z plays his best in the worst conditions. And this is going to be a tough condition weekend, so I'm hoping for the best.
I'm hoping for the best, too. Let's hope that his back holds up and he can hold the DeChambros on it to a victory.
Hey, there we go. Let's go.
Beauty. You talked about those 2010s and 5s, so let's move on to our next segment, which, of course, is 20s, 10s, and 5s.
My favorite.
And in 2010s and 5s, we get deep into the gambling, where we put a bet on a top 20, a top 10, and a top 5 golfer. So how did we do last week, Tanner? How did you do?
Well, I got the boys another win. We'll start with the top 20.
Let's get it.
I had Maverick McNeely.
Attaboy. Good bet.
Yeah, T9 on the day, or on the weekend, sorry. So that's another notch there, and it looks like we're tied unless you've got some wins here coming up. So talk to me. How was it?
I mean, let's look into this right now. Talking about ties, let's look at the odds and see where the money lies. But let's get into my top 20. My top 20 last week, of course, was Canadian boy Corey Conners. Real horrible showing out of Corey. Good start with a 67. And then downhill from there, 71, 73, 76 for T74 out of 76 golfers that made the cut. Just not what we were looking for out of Corey. Real rough for me, but not the greatest.
What about your top 10?
Top 10, I went with another good Canadian boy. I went with the defending champion, Nick motherfucking Taylor, who also didn't have a great showing. T25 out of Nick Taylor. Tough start with a 70, bounced back with a 66, was showing some hope. I was into it. I loved it. We were exactly where we needed to be. Started the weekend with another 70, ended the weekend with a 69. Not what I was looking for out of my guy, Nick Taylor.
Let me tell you what I did top 10, Shane.
Let me know.
You want to hear about pain. I had Sun JM, okay?
Of course.
And on Sunday, he was right around that T10 placement. Needed just a semi-decent day out of him, not what it cashed. What did he do? +4. He put out a +4 on Sunday, pushed him back to T57.
Just the good old fucking DeChambros curse on these guys. My God, tough showing. But that leads us into our T5, which of course was our T5. We shared it with our guy JT, who had a phenomenal week and just absolutely had me glued to the TV.
Dude, I
on
threw
Sunday.
Shit on 18. When he eagle holed out, when I saw that, I was like, no, I messaged you right away.
Absolutely.
And immediately we're like, okay, who could ruin this for us?
And who else to ruin it other than Jordan fucking Spieth? I had to talk highly about him before, but I'm going to talk fucking shitty about him now. This guy has to put in a late birdie, gives himself a T4, gives Justin Thomas the T6.
Yep.
Absolutely
just pushing
crushes,
just outside of our
crushes our hopes and dreams of Justin Thomas.
Yeah.
Just missing out on that top 5 by a stroke. So, all right, without further ado, let's get into this week, because this week can't be worse than last week for me. We're only looking at anything better, and I think I got a real good squad here to contend against you. Top 20, brother. Who do you got?
My top 20, I'm going to stick with the formula that's worked for me.
Okay.
And that's picking one of our golfers for a top 20.
Who do you got?
I got Maverick McNeely.
Another Maverick McNeely top 20.
Kidding. I got Keeks. I led off with all those stats earlier. Come on, man. It's got to be Keeks.
I knew when you were talking
+140.
those stats, you're going to pick him somewhere, but
+140.
when you dropped that Maverick, I thought you'd pick him 10 or something like that.
No. T15 at Farmers earlier this year. Within Torrey Pines, he's inside the top 20, 5 out of 8 years. Second in 2023 here at the South Course. That's my pick for top 20. I think it's a lock, and I hope it is for both of our fantasy sake and for my.
You know what's funny? I had Captain Keegan in my top 20 as well. So everything you're talking about, I already know because it was part of my research as well. But what I found is that when I didn't bet Captain Keegan, he played well, and when I bet him, he played fucking miserable. So I stayed away.
I love that.
My top 20 is a very interesting pick here. I picked a guy that was T2 last week. That T2 earned his way in to this elevated event. He had a great showing. He was in contention. It wasn't until 16 that he kind of fell and lost that ability to fight for that win. Daniel Berger, I have at plus 175. I think that he's going to take that momentum, earning his first elevated event. And I mean, I don't think he's going to win this thing. I don't think he's going to come in second again. But I think that, he's a really good pick and really good odds at that plus 175 to have as a top 20 bet.
Love that. Who you got for your top 10 then?
Top 10 is one I picked with my head and with my heart. This is a pick that when I had picked him, of course, he went down with illness, and when he went down with illness, he went down with that illness at the Farmers. I picked Ludwig for my top 10, of course. Ludwig was contending at the Farmers. Ludwig should have won the Farmers. Ludwig went down with an illness and hasn't really played since. I think that he's going to come back. He's going to take that momentum on this same course, and he's going to run from it. Again, with how deep the field is, don't think that Ludwig's going to win. Like I was 100% certain he had the Farmers, and I'm 100% certain without that illness he still would have won that Farmers. That was his tournament to lose. But this is a course that he knows. This is a course he plays well on. Yep. This is a course that he played and grinded through illness on. So I think that a healthy Ludwig is an easy top 10 pick. That plus 185, couldn't say no.
Love that. Okay, well, my top 10 here, I went with some minus odds. And you know what?
I'm trying to take the easy route.
You said that last time, the easy route last. There's no easy route in picking a golf fucking placement, okay? Let's start with that. A. And then B, also, I resent that comment because, it's really hard to pick golfers.
It is.
And I think that when you see someone, you're like, their name just sticks out. Yeah, it's sticking out for a reason. They're probably going to place in that sense, right?
For sure.
It's not minus 143 for no reason at all.
For sure. So minus 143, who you got?
Rory.
I love it.
I couldn't do top 5, and I'll explain why here. But at this course, in the past few years, a T16.
Yep.
Okay, in 2021, a T3 in 2020.
Yep.
Okay, and a T5 in 2019.
Okay.
Further on, in 2021, a T7 at the U.S. Open, nonetheless. He plays really well here, and I think that kind of speaks for itself. You know what I mean? How am I going to go against that? I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's what makes most sense to me. So I'm not going to go and try to pick something that's plus just to say I picked something. No, I'm going to take what I think is my for sure lock to hit a top 10. That's Rory.
Yeah, and I love it. I mean, you're putting numbers from years past, which, it's kind of like, what has he done lately? But again, we talked about this. It's the year of Rory, man.
It's the year of Rory.
And Rory was playing well back in those years. Rory's playing well again this year. I absolutely love that pick. Don't love the odds, but I love the pick.
There we go.
Let's move on to our top 5. You want to lead me off there, Tan?
Good old Canadian boy on this one. I'm going with our guy, Taylor Pendrith. Okay, plus 550. You want some plus odds? I'll give you plus odds.
I love it.
Plus
I love
550. Let's have a few conversations here. Okay, Taylor Pendrith has played 3 tournaments this year against the top competition.
Yep.
You want to know how he's done in all 3 of those tournaments?
Let me know.
T13, T7, T9. And that T7 was at Torrey Pines at the Farmers Open.
Sure was.
This is the year of Taylor Pendrith, if there's been any year for Taylor Pendrith. You know what I mean?
I don't know if there's anyone else in the world who would put that sentence together other than you, but I love it.
Taylor Pendrith, this is his year. This is his coming out party. And to have 3 solid starts against the top in the world in the PGA, you know,
I love it. He showed up here.
This is the one where he's going to show us that he deserves to be in that conversation of the top in the world.
For sure. And he's already shown up at this course earlier this year.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it for you. I love it for our team, and I love it for Canada.
There we go. Who you got?
My top 5 is an interesting one. I think that you're gonna love this.
Okay.
My top 5 is a golfer who, when you look at his tournaments this year, has kind of been struggling.
Yep.
But he's had 2 tournaments where he really shined bright. Okay, those 2 tournaments, he was solo 3rd at the Century, and he was T4 at the Farmers. I think it's absolutely disrespectful for them to give him plus 500 odds to just match another top 5 here in this tournament. I picked none other than your guy, Sung Jae Im. I think that, when we talk horses for courses and when we talk guys, again, playing up against the best of the best and whatever have you be, Sung Jae showed up at the Century. Sung Jae showed up at Torrey Pines earlier this year.
I love the pick.
I'm hoping he shows up again this week for me.
I looked at it, but because I picked him last week and he had such a bad showing,
he did.
I got a little scared off of that pick.
He did, and it was kind of one of those things that when I was looking at it, I went, he's not. But when he showed up, and when he showed up, it was at Torrey Pines.
Yep.
So couldn't say no.
Love it.
All right, let's move on. Next segment, of course, we have LIV'n the Dream. And this is where we discuss LIV Golf. LIV Golf had their opening week this week.
Did you watch any of it?
I did. You know what? I'll be honest with you, it was kind of busy during the week, but I watched Saturday. I watched the final round. Couple of takeaways I have from it. LIV Golf is still LIV Golf. It was great to see Jon Rahm out there playing. I love seeing him hit it from everywhere close to the pin. He was wild off the tee. I think I watched him hit 4 shots in 4 holes in a row into the rough. All 4 shots within 10 feet. All 4 putts missed. Yeah. So it was a wild up and down for me, just kind of watching Jon Rahm do his thing. But what really bugged the hell out of me, I don't want to sound like a broken record. I've complained about this like crazy with the TGL, and I've complained about it in the past with LIV. The fucking music, bro. It was brutal, and it just felt like it was so much more intensified this week. There was a goddamn rave going on during the play, and I think that everybody that went to watch the golf was at the rave, because if you looked and we watched, there was empty stands, there was empty fairways. I know it was across the world. I know it was at night, but the light show and the fucking techno music, it was just so much for me to handle. There was a point where I was actually watching it on mute so that I could enjoy the golf and watch them do what they're there to do.
I'm going to be honest with you. Even in our normal, weekend rounds, it took me till this year to be able to play with music in the background.
Yeah.
Right? And even then, I can't have it very loud. Because, I know I'm not professional. They, a lot different. But I'm just so in my head and need to be able to think clearly. And, as I'm watching it just doesn't feel like a professional golf tournament. It really doesn't. Night golf was super, super cool. I was talking about how you can see the ball flight even better until it disappears in the dark. Yeah. But at that beginning, you see it literally shot shaping, and you don't see that normally in normal golf. You're hoping that line shows you what it does. But night golf, you see that ball until it's about 150, 200 yards out of the screen there. And I like that a lot.
It's interesting, and I wrote this down in my notes because I wanted to talk about that as well. I was really looking forward to that night golf aspect of it, And maybe it was just on Saturday, maybe it was the whole weekend. There wasn't a lot of shots shown where you actually saw the ball. Every single tee shot and most of the approaches, but at the time they hit the ball and the shot tracer went, the shot tracer covered the ball. You couldn't see it anyways. Now, there was a few shots within 100 yards where they left the shot tracer at home and they let us see the ball fly. And that was super cool to watch. That was the experience that I was looking for.
Yeah.
On mute, obviously, right, for the music. But I really think that they kind of missed the mark on the abilities that they had with that. And I don't know if
should have been a delayed shot tracer.
100%.
Every single shot should have been a 2-second delay on the shot tracer so you could watch that ball go, it disappears, boom, there's the line.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
I think that's something that they had going for them that was kind of neat and cool and had never been done in professional golf before. I think they kind of missed the mark just a little bit. Like the shots that I did see, it was exactly what I was looking for. Cool. But the other shots, it was just another tournament where you're seeing the shot tracer and it was just dark in the background. So kind of missed the
No, 100%. I agree. I got another question actually for you around LIV'n the Dream over here. I heard that a lot of the contracts might be expiring this year at the end of the year for some of these golfers, if not all of the big ones. Bryson and Brooks specifically is what I heard.
It is a very interesting topic. So we're year 4 of LIV. If I'm not mistaken, most of the big names that signed up at the beginning were 5-year contracts.
Okay, so they got one extra.
So I think it's, they're coming into contract year, which is really interesting to talk about too. And again, I could be wrong. I mean, Bryson and, some of the guys went later, right? They weren't there right away. So they might have signed in, year 2 or the 4, whatever have be. But I think it's really interesting to talk about, especially the guys that were on 3-year contracts after year 1 and things like that, right? What does the future of LIV Golf hold, and what does it look like when it comes time for these contract negotiations?
I have a few thoughts. So, number one, my first thought is, would they get rid of a high name, a big named golfer who isn't performing well on LIV because they want the best of the best, they want more competition?
Yep.
That's my first thing, right? Are you just going to let Phil continue to wag around, or any of these other golfers? I know that this year, the beginning of the year, there has been a lot of new names that have joined the LIV League, right? Like some of the amateurs went over to LIV. And I think that they had a relegation kind of system?
That's what I was going to get at. So the really interesting part about that is 2 main packs, right? So they came out with the relegation that if you were underperforming, that you were, you dropped out of the league. There was a couple of big names, including Bubba Watson, that was out of there. But here is the challenge with it. I think that was something that they came out with because they were still going for OWGR points. Okay, so when they were trying to get the official world golf ranking points, the big point was nobody earns their way onto this tour. Everyone's given a contract and signed, and you're given a place. So without having, feeder tours like the PGA Tour has, where you earn your card and you earn your place, that was a big part of the OWGR saying, how can I give you points when no one's earned their way here? So they said, okay, well, if they don't earn their way to stay, now we're earning our way. Problem was, big names didn't earn their way, and without those big names, what do they have? Problem number 2, a lot of those big names, like Bubba and Phil, own the teams that they play for. So how are you going to tell Phil you're not playing well enough, you can't play on it, but you still own the fucking...
It's the same way they tell Jerry Jones he can't strap it up for the Dallas Cowboys.
I agree. But at the end of the day, if Phil says, nope, I own the team I'm playing, what the fuck are they going to say? Okay, you own the team, right? If Jerry Jones said, I'm going to fucking strap up at linebacker, guess who's fucking, running to the A-gap to try and stop a running back? You know what I mean?
See that.
I think a lot of people would. But that's kind of a lot of the challenges with it. I mean, at the end of the day, when we're having this conversation of LIV, I'm a true believer these conversations are working their way through. I mean, I don't think that we're going to go into next year and have the segregation of the leagues the way that we have this year. I think we're still a couple of years away from them joining, but I think that in some way, shape, or form,
it'll be on paper.
There will be something on paper where they will be one entity, and at the end of 5 years when these guys' contracts are up, it's not going to fucking matter because LIV Golf is just going to have events on the PGA Tour, and that's going to be that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see that. Because, like, honestly, my first thought, like, it wasn't what we just talked about. The first thought, truthfully, was for me, what if Bryson and Brooks say, we're going back to the PGA? Your two biggest name stars, your two best performing stars go back. Like, does that do one of two things? A, does that, like, start the end of what LIV has been trying to build? And would that give the PGA Tour a leg up on negotiations? And then B, the second side of that is, if LIV in the last year know that they're not coming back, does LIV push as hard as possible to get that on paper, the amalgamation of both of these kind of tours, so that there are some, LIV-sponsored events on tour, right?
So first things first, that's a whole lot of fucking things to throw at me. So to kind of go back on that, I'll start with first. What if Brooks and Bryson want to go back to the PGA Tour? First of all, I don't think it's that easy. I don't think it's their choice. I don't think that they can just say, I want to be on the tour, and they're back. I really, really don't. There needs to be a way that these guys earn their way back on tour. They don't have status on the tour. If they have to go to the Korn Ferry and win 3 tournaments, which they'll do easily, then it is what it is. I don't think that's the path. I think the path to them going back to the tour is the marriage of the two leagues. I think that's the only way. Second, I don't think they want to, right? Brooks is having the time of his life, making more money than anyone can spend ever, playing less golf than he has ever, and just contending in the majors, which is all he has ever wanted to do. And he's been very vocal about how that's the only thing he's ever wanted to do. Bryson has had his freedom given to him by leaving the PGA Tour. So I don't think he wants to go back to the shackles. I don't think that that's a problem at all. I think the problem would be, what about these young up-and-comers that aren't signing guaranteed contracts, right? That are going to live on the hope and the dream of, if I come in last place, I still make $150,000. You know what I mean? I think it's more of a worry about up-and-coming and the future of LIV when the best of their best aren't the best of the best anymore. Who do they have to replace them that way? I don't think they get replaced by going back to the tour. I just really don't.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, truthfully, in my head, I didn't really contemplate or consider, the re-entry and if PGA would even just allow it to happen.
Yeah.
Because, like you're saying, going to the Korn Ferry Tour, you're going to win very fast on the Korn Ferry Tour.
For sure.
But I mean, at the same time, you've got both those gentlemen are exempt from all majors. They're like, so how can you tell someone who's multiple-time major winner that you aren't?
Yeah,
you're not allowed to play.
Doesn't matter. A more interesting conversation, someone like DJ, right? Who first year on LIV was playing well, but who's arguably playing the absolute worst golf in his entire career. And I think that's a product
of... He was in the twilight of his career, though. He was already, mid-30s when he made the move. Yeah. It's like I don't think he ever planned to come back to PGA.
Neither do I. This is his ride off in the sunset, and his golf is showing. He doesn't give a fuck.
Exactly. That's what I mean, right?
He doesn't give a fuck out there. So I don't think that there's the big names don't care to go back. It's the small names.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our last segment of the day, which is, of course, tomorrow's Golf League Today, where we talk about none other than the TGL.
Yeah.
TGL had a really interesting week last week. It was another, I'd say, semi-blowout. Wasn't really close at all, which was a little bit deflating. Kind of took the wind out of the sails of the week before. We had a really, really close matchup. We had the hammer being thrown. We had the excitement. We had everything I wanted out of it. And then we had last week. And last week, they missed a shot.
I was going to say, I heard about one thing because you blew my phone up when this happened.
I blew everybody's phone up. I could not fucking believe it, Tanner. I mean, all of us have been to the simulator where you hit a perfect shot and it doesn't register, and then you re-tee up and you hit a bad shot. And that's exactly what happened. You hit a second shot into the sand.
So happy. I'm like, this is just like me.
This can't happen, man. Like, I mean, I was talking to Talon, about how they chose the simulator company based on, Tiger Woods, a stake in the company. Was that why? It's an inferior product. There's so much better product out there. And this is why that shit matters, man.
Yep.
Between
you
and
have
me,
that. You just can't. Not in the TGL.
You got me and you just swinging out there during the winter because there's snow outside. We're just trying to stay loose, and it misses a shot, and it's whatever. We're not counting score. We're not fighting for a championship. We're not playing for money. We don't have anybody fucking betting on us.
Yeah.
And that's where the big problem is. You got people putting money on this, which, I mean, is a whole nother story. If you're out there putting money on this, there's some questions in that. But you can't start this league that is supposed to be this revolutionary product that's going to help grow the game of the tour, and then everything relies on the technology that you've hyped us all up on, and then that technology fails. And what do you have?
Listen, you're going to have hiccups with any new product like this. The crazy thing to me is, how do you not have a backup simulator also recording every shot and just like double track, like just ensuring that things are correct on your, like, how is there not a second system?
You would think, and even if it didn't register on the main screen, you go, okay, we're going back to the second screen because we have a plan because simulators miss shots.
That was the biggest thing for me, was like finding out that there was no preparation, no planning, no, doomsday scenario. What if this happened? Like, did they not plan any of this out?
You know what?
Because again, I get it. You're going to have issues. It's a simulator. We deal with them all the time. There's so many shots. Like, there's no way that's exactly what would have happened, right?
100%.
But at the same time, this is a televised event. This is professionals. Like you said, you have people betting on it. How do you only have one system? How? That's what blew my mind the most.
100%. And then on top of the technical problems, again, you had just the issues with the actual match itself not being competitive. And it led me to thinking, like, the big problem that I find with it and where they have tried to build excitement is the hammer, right?
Yeah.
If you're down, you can throw the hammer, it's worth 2. But here's the problem. If your team doesn't have the hammer, you can't throw it. And if I'm sitting there and I got a 4 or 5 point lead, I'm not throwing the hammer.
Why would I?
I'm not giving you the chance. And it really got me thinking, and I came up with this idea. So the people of TGL, if you're listening, hear me out. I think that the hammer should move to a challenge rule like the NFL. Okay?
Yep.
So when you look at the TGL, it's really broken into 2 different components. Okay? You have 9 holes of alternate shot, and then you have 6 holes of 1v1.
Yep.
Okay? That 9 holes of alternate shot, each team gets 2 hammers. You throw 1 hammer, you throw a second hammer, you're done for the front 9. It gives each team the ability to throw the hammer and get their 2 points possibly to make up and make it more competitive.
Yep.
But it doesn't allow one team to hold all of the cards if they're in the league.
Yeah, I like that.
Then, when we go to singles, each match in those 2 holes gets 1 hammer apiece.
What if, like in the NFL, you only get that 1 hammer continued if the prior one was successful?
I mean, that's another way to look at it, too. I like limiting it as well, but it's definitely...
I don't want a hammer every single hole.
Yeah, but there's no...
End.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to lose a timeout, but this is what I mean. It's not going to be every single hole because you only have 1 at the end.
I heard it... My bad. I heard it as,
Yeah, no, once you're 2 for the front 9 are gone, they're gone. And then if I'm playing you and we have 2 holes in singles, I only have 1 hammer.
Yeah.
Right? So I can either play it the first match because we got to catch up, or I can play it the second match because, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, it brings that excitement back into it. It gives that hope that my team that's down has a hammer in their pocket. They have 1 left. The first one was unsuccessful, but they still have a second, and we can still get this going.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 that were unsuccessful, but I still got them in singles. It allows me to be able to watch and not just say, fucking just give them the hammer already, because you're pummeling them into the ground, and then it's not an enjoyable product for us to watch when we're getting into singles and the match is conceded already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get into that. It's an interesting week coming up. This week coming up, they're actually taking a break. There is no match tonight. They're going into next week though, which is pretty wild. Did you see the schedule for next week?
No, talk to me.
So next week it's on Monday, which I'm looking forward to because I'm going to be on a plane on my way back from Vegas. So in terms of airports and layovers and all that kind of bullshit, I'm going to have something to watch. So it's actually a triple header with 2 teams having double headers. Wild.
Okay.
So we're starting with 2 undefeated teams going against each other. So we have Atlanta versus LA. So Atlanta, of course, JT, Patty Ice, Billy Ho, and Lucas Glover. Interested to see if Lucas plays, if they put him in the second game or something like that. Versus LA's Colin, Thiegs, Rose, and Fleetwood. So an undefeated team against another undefeated team. Hopefully we get an absolute banger in that first match, have something real nice and close, and we're able to, get the juices flowing in this triple header.
Taking ATL on that one.
Well, that's interesting because then ATL has to play a second game against the Bay, who is also undefeated.
Yeah.
And if you remember, the Bay is led by Luddy, Wyndham, Minwoo, and Shane Lowry. That's an absolute stacked team. One of my favorite team lineups that they have out there. So interesting, if Atlanta wins and stays undefeated, we have a second undefeated versus undefeated. If not, of course, they're playing, the top team that's out there in the Bay. The Bay then flips over and is going to play Rory McIlroy's Boston Common, which of course is Rory Hideki, Captain Keegs, and Adam Scott. So really interesting because Boston not winning a single game so far, losing in overtime. This is a win or die for Boston here.
Oh God, yeah.
And they're going to be going up against the Bay, who
could be
is either going to be undefeated or 1-1.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really, really stacked lineup that they have. Looking forward to these matches. Hopefully we get a little bit of competition in there. Hopefully TGL's listening and we get the 2 flag rule going in there for this week, and that gets a nice change. But looking forward to talking about 3 different matches. 3 different matches, there's 3 different chances for another technical error. So let's hope they got some shit figured out.
I know you'll be looking for those.
Perfect. Well, I think that wraps it up for another episode of the DeChambros. Looking forward to watching the Genesis this week. Looking forward to seeing our guy Tiger Woods on the TV, and looking forward to a jam-packed day of TGL.
Hey, thanks for watching, Wyndham.
DeChambros.